go. The end of the year is approaching on Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. So we're going to do a little, well, we will do an awards show near the end. We'll see if me and my guest agree on certain things, but we'll find out. Anyway, my guest at this time, you may know that in the wrestling world, there is a thing called Fightful. It does wrestling news and everything else, and there's some great guys there, Sean Ross Sapp and others. Don't get me wrong, there is others, people that work there as well. But we've got one of them with us today. We're going to talk some wrestling and a lot more. That's Corey Brennan. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here and chat to you today. A lot of wrestling 2025 that just kind of leapt off the page almost in terms of web pages. Sorry, getting a little humor in there early, but yeah, looking forward to it.
It is going to be interesting. You mentioned 2025, so I think that's the best way to start. We're obviously approaching the end of the year. Now, at time of recording, everyone, although you're seeing this probably on December the 30th, it is the 18th of December. So anyway, at the time of recording, 2025 for me in wrestling, I think has been all about mainly about TV deals and switching, lots of switching channels. WWE over here in the UK and obviously in Ireland for Netflix. AEW's gone on to Max. TNA has found a new home. Obviously TNA Plus for us. Get that downloaded. Got to get that plug in. Get it subscribed. TNA next year. NWA's gone on to Roku as well. What's 2025 been like in your eyes through wrestling?
I think it's been an entertaining year to say the least. There's been a lot of storylines, a lot of big moments and stuff like that that have really kind of stood out. I think a lot of people have kind of argued that this year, particularly with WWE, there hasn't been a lot of big moments or just memorable moments. And I have to disagree with that. Like we've seen AJ Lee return in WWE. We've seen like as much as I disagree with it, Brock Lesnar return. That's a massive thing as well. There's a lot of just stuff that happened this year in really all companies. We had Hangman Page's redemption arc, which is one of my favorite storylines in recent memory. There's been some amazing matches. Even before he went off to get neck surgery, Will Ospreay was putting on incredible matches. There's matches all over the world. Me and you both know that the British scene has been taken off. Look at Leon Slater, how he's kind of just taken off in recent months. He's massive. And I think one of the big things this year in general was just the young talent pushing through and kind of everyone kind of going, hold on a second. There's this whole entire generation of 20 to 23-year-olds who are coming through who wrestle like they've been in the business 20 years. Their instincts are phenomenal. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this year for me is just the young talent pushing through and kind of just saying, okay, we're here now. We're going to be here to stay. And I think that's really my biggest takeaway from this year.
Definitely, they could probably get their own promotion, couldn't they? The
Yeah.
younger talent. It's been incredible. You mentioned Leon, obviously NXT, TNA. Look, this like is TNA at least for the minute. I mean, the way it's going,
Hmm.
you know, potentially the other Prince of WWE or NXT, they wouldn't have him on the show or wrestling on Saturday night's main event if they didn't think highly of Leon. And there's others. Listen, Luke Jacobs is around still, and we still got the
Yeah.
Okus that technically hasn't found a home yet. I'm sure that may be something in 2020. But there's loads of other big names in the UK and in America, Javon Evans being one of them, and you kind of touched on that. Um, but as we move into 2026, the one thing I'd say, I know AEW went on a signing spree a little bit, but the one thing I would say we haven't seen, and I was a bit surprised, is coming and goings between the promotions. We've
Hmm.
seen a couple here and there, mainly WWE and AEW. I kind of thought that as things were starting to progress, and there was obviously talk of Drew going and he didn't, and so and such and such.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a lot of in between the brands. Did that surprise you much that there hasn't been a lot of movement between AEW WWE guys?
It's not really it's something that kind of it's just you can only switch companies if your contract's running out, right?
Yeah.
So in 2025, there was a bunch of contracts that did come up at the start of the year. We know that, but there wasn't a lot of jumps, like you said, because but I think there were still a couple that kind of stood out. Obviously, Mariah May, like Monroe, whichever you choose to call it, and I wouldn't say surprised, but I think that people will be surprised in the coming years. It like people will be like, oh, it's calmed down now. People aren't going to jump as much anymore. And I think in 2026 and 2027, just based on just the stuff that's out there, I'm not saying anything inside
No.
info here, but the stuff that's out there about contracts that are coming up, wrestlers who are planning to retire from full-time competition, I think that will lead to more jumping as the two companies try to replace these stars that are what are leaving the sport in general and walking away. Um, You've got Chris Jericho, who we don't know what's happening with him right now. So he could, in the start 2026, we could see him on WWE programming. We don't know yet exactly those details on that or anything like that. Adam Copeland's nearing the end of his career. Christian Cage is nearing the end of his career. AJ Styles. Like there's a lot of big names who are really about to end their careers. So both companies are going to be looking to find out who's going to be that next star. And I know you said AEW to WWE and vice versa, but also TNA to
Yeah.
both companies as well. Even with the working relationship that WWE have with TNA, there's people like Leon Slater who is going into a contract year.
Mm.
And whatever you may think about the TNA WWE deal, about Joe Hendry jumping from TNA to WWE, Leon Slater, I think, is someone who very much fits AEW as well. He fits in any promotion he
Yeah.
works in. We know this as people who've watched him on the British and the Irish and it's everywhere in Europe. That man walks into a building and it's like he's been there his whole career. But so I think that there could be some surprises in store because like people said, you don't really know what's going on in these wrestlers' heads. No one
No.
really truly does what's going on except them. Even in the industry that I'm in the reporting it and trying to find out all this info before it happens. At the end of the day, it's a lot harder to find out if the wrestler themselves is keeping it to themselves. At the end of the day, you can't find out at that point. So I don't know. I think that this year is kind of like you said, slow, but I do think it'll pick up in the next 2 or 3 years. We'll see a lot more jumps again.
Yeah, Bailey's another one
Yeah,
potentially. Who knows?
yeah,
Who knows? We'll find out. You mentioned retirements, and it's kind of fitting because we've not long just finished a retirement. Maybe not necessarily that had its controversial moments, but I don't want to necessarily talk about the retirement part of it. But just John's career on its own. I mean, you define the word workhorse now, maybe Seth Rollins, other than the injury, obviously, but John and I had love-hate relationship with him.
yeah.
He supports my football team, so I'll give him that. But at points where I got to a stage with him, and it's a story I've told before, where when he was champion the first time, maybe the first time, and he had a long reign, and I said to myself, the first person that beats him is going to be my favorite wrestler. Luckily enough, it was Copeland at New Year's
Yeah.
Revolution when he come out and cashed in. But look, all that though, the one word that I would use, and I think he used it, is obviously there is a respect issue. I'm a wrestling fan. I know I've done some wrestling, so I know the ins and outs. Obviously, I haven't put my body through the stuff that he's put himself through. But bottom line is, how would you define the career of John Cena?
I'd say that I'd say that the argument of him being the greatest of all time is one that is definitely one that has a lot of weight to it. I think it's a discussion to be had for wrestling historians who are much more aware of the business than I have been. I'm I'm 26 or 27 next year. So I've a lot of wrestling that I've never took in. But John Cena is someone who I watched his entire career from the moment, not even his entire career, the entire time he was on top. From 2005 when he won the title, that's when I started watching wrestling. So I was the perfect kind of person to kind of go through the kind of the three stages of being a John Cena in wrestling. As a kid, you love him. As a teenager, you hate him, and as a kid, or as an adult, you just can't. You're just like he's gotten good now. He's always been that good. Like you just can't hate the man at that point, especially when you're older and you really understand the magnitude of Make a Wish of stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, for me, he's always been someone who, when like JBL, a lot used to call him Big Match John, there was no one better for a period of time than John Cena. When he was motivated, when you got him in there with someone he clicked with, he just put on magic. And I think for a lot of people, he had that time period where he was coasting and there was stuff to do with backstage stuff, the Nexus and stuff like that. So it was
Mm.
kind of a lot of people were getting sick of him. But I think it's a strange thing because around the mid 2010s, it just kind of clicked, really, didn't it? Last
Mm.
10 years or so of his career, it clicked. Finally, everyone loved him. Anytime he came back, everyone cheered him. It was completely ironic when crowds chanted that he sucked. Like at that point,
Yeah.
I feel like that it was the time when people started singing it back to him and his theme played. But Yeah, no, it's his career. Like I said it the night that he retired, I said like I've literally never been a wrestling fan without John Cena as a top star in
Mm.
the industry. So yeah, what his career, what it means, it's just it's hard. It's really hard to put into words.
Yeah, it really is. And obviously, I'm a, shall we say, tad older. I won't go into my age, but I'm a little bit older than you. And I remember seeing the scene a bit myself. Like I said, I had a love-hate thing. You're right, although I hated him in my 20s, maybe 20s or 30s.
Yeah,
But the one word I always use is respect. I'll always respect the
yeah,
guy. And it wasn't his, like, well, some of it maybe not his fault. We don't know the backstage drama. And you mentioned Nexus there. We don't
yeah,
know. We don't know what happened, right? We only got told what we hear in interviews and whatnot, and we take that as a gospel thing. But at the end of the day, the guy has he's been incredible for WWE, and he will look his legacy, one of the greatest all time, Hall of Fame 2026. We will see. But you did say, you mentioned it, 2005 was the year that you started getting into wrestling. And this is what one of the things I wanted to talk about you. How did all of that stuff happen for you in wrestling?
it was kind of my early days of being a wrestling fan is one that's kind of an interesting story because I started enjoying wrestling when I was like 6 years old. My cousins, who were like 3 or 4 years older than me, but they were like that as like cousins. They were basically brothers. So I started enjoying wrestling, started hanging around with them more, even though a little bit of age gap, wrestling on trampolines, starting to really like I probably shouldn't say it. Don't try it at home, kids. But yeah, so it was really it was a combination of Cena and Jeff Hardy. It just seeing when Jeff eventually came back to WWE, it like my cousins loved them from when they were a little younger, and he was still in WWE and TNA. Obviously, TNA in the UK and Ireland was always on TV for
Yeah.
us. It was so much easier to access, so we could see all that. And the interesting thing about my wrestling fandom is there's a 2 year gap in it where I've gone back and watched it between mid 2007 ish to about 2009 ish, where I went back and watched everything. I caught shows here and there. I was only 7 or 8 years old, so I could watch it at my cousin's house, couldn't watch it at home. But it was mainly because the Chris Benoit tragedy
Yeah.
unfortunately happened, and my parents were freaked the hell out by it, especially my mother. She was very worried that I'd find out about this horrific tragedy if I watched the product. Obviously, that never came to pass, as we all know. Benoit was immediately scrubbed from history. They didn't mention him again for decades, and still to this day, he's barely ever even shown on camera or on any video package or anything. But yeah, so I have that little gap, and then I came back in like fully in 2009, which isn't the best time to come back to WWE, as we all know. When PG era just kind of got really hard, all the guest hosts, all the
Yeah.
stuff like that started happening. But yeah, my early days of wrestling fandom is really a testament to my cousins and the fact that they really like being able to beat up someone smaller than them on a trampoline.
I used to do it with my nephews, funny enough, but they're now 6'6". I don't think I
Yeah.
could. I don't think it would work anymore. Same with my son. Like my son, we used to mess around with. Like he's 11 now, and he's probably my height nearly. And I'm just like, yeah, this ain't happening anymore. Like it's
Yeah.
done. It's done for me. So my wrestling started in about 1988,
Yeah.
when Sky first become a thing. Right in the UK, we started to get things, and I
Mm,
I can still vividly said this the other week on the show. I can still vividly remember Damien the Snake biting Randy Savage, and
mm,
Earthquake even doing the big splash on the Snake as well, and Warrior and Slaughter in the Royal Rumble with a scepter and whatnot else. Anyway, enough about me. So yeah, I mean, 2005, you mentioned it there, and you go back in, and Batista was there, and Triple H was there. Undertaker was still wrestling at the time. Kane was still around as well, without a mask. I think during that period,
mm,
it was maskless during that time as well. Jeff Hardy's the one though. Do you know what? I talk to wrestlers like we do a series called Independent Showcase where we talk to the young up and comers in the British independent scene, and I've had about 6 interviews done recently. Every single one of them said the name Jeff Hardy as when they're like 18, they're like younger than you. But is that like Jeff Hardy? Did he just hit like? I don't know, with like everybody, no matter what kind of age group, or he's just someone that, whether it's his music that you dance to, whether it's just the excitement that he brings in the ring, he's just one of the guys that just, all I hear from everyone is Jeff Hardy. He just has that, I don't know, aura maybe about him.
Yeah. Jeff is someone that I took to very young because I can't really it's really just a case of he the death defying leaps, just the fact
Mm.
that he was so beloved every time he came out. It was just it doesn't matter where he is on the card. It just doesn't matter. He's gonna get an absolutely huge reaction. It was just it just I can't really explain it on a level. Like he just clicks with people so well, and he's always been one of my favorite wrestlers. And just I cannot put into words how much just seeing him do all this stuff and seeing how like just insane he was during that time period when I first started being a fan. Like when he jumped off the stage, it was towards the end of 2008 when he jumped on Randy Orton. That's one of the things that I caught,
Mm.
despite my parents like trying to get around my parents not wanting me to watch it. But yeah, that spot where he jumped off the stage onto Randy Orton, that was really the moment where, as a kid, I was just like, that guy is the coolest dude ever. Like I'd seen all the highlight packages of him doing it in TLC and stuff like that, but just something about the fact he climbed the stage and all that, and he was getting revenge for his older brother and everything in that segment. So, just yeah, he's just a really really cool dude, I guess.
And
Is the best way to put it.
still great to see him in a good place as well
Yeah,
now with TNA, and seeming to be
100%.
enjoying. He's saying he wasn't enjoying it, but you know what I mean. He's in that good place now. No demons, just we're seeing Jeff Hardy again, which is
Yeah.
wonderful for us all to see. We'll get to Fightful in a minute. But I wanted to start first, and I said to you before, there's going to be a list of questions I'm going to ask you. Some I'll tell you, and some I won't.
Yeah.
And I do this quite a lot with everyone. So some of them stump more than others. Some of them can answer it quite quickly. So it's all good. One of the questions that I asked you before we went on, and I'm going to start with it now, is if you could only have three songs, wrestling theme songs that you can only listen to forever, what are those theme songs going to be?
I'm gonna get some controversy for this list because it's very it one of them is definitely Wild Thing for
Moxley.
Mox. Uh Second to be No More Words. Obviously, everyone loves that.
Yeah.
The third one is one that I'm a little bit stumped on because there's so many. It's a really hard one to think about, to be honest. But I'd have to go with "Get Ready to Fly."
Oh, okay, interesting. That's a good bit. No More Words comes up quite often, as you could probably imagine. Although I did have one the other day that said The Miz. I came to play, which
Downstate are really good.
yeah,
Every theme that they've done, I've never turned around and gone, but that sucks. They're very consistent, and the Miz is no different. But in terms of all timers, I don't know if it'd crack my top 50. I'll be completely honest.
at least he
Um,
doesn't. At least he hasn't been Death Rebel
but
yet.
before we but I do want to honorable mention because
Yes,
I
go
have to
on.
say, Elevated is
Yes.
definitely getting up there for me, and I think if you ask me this question in 6 to 7 months when he comes back and he gets that massive pop with it, I'd probably change my mind. But those four songs in general, just they embody the wrestler. They're
Mm.
great songs outside of wrestling, and they're beloved by pretty much every fan that not like Elevated, yes, there's some people out there who would just say it's crap, but we know why they say it's crap. So
Oh yes, and do you know what? Funny enough, my boy isn't like a massive wrestling fan. He's been in and out, and he doesn't really watch it now. But the one song that he sings when it comes on in the car is "Elevate." That's
yeah,
the one. That's the one. And he does the woe for Cody and all that stuff. But the one song that he will sing is that one. He will
yeah.
happily sing that, and it is a great song. And you're right. The only people that think it's crap, we know exactly who they are. Anyway, this is this question I hadn't asked you, and it falls on the same theme, like the whole thing of themes. But if you could have an artist play you out on a wrestling show, which artist would you have? Don't say Death Rebel.
Uh, damn, that's a really hard question. Because there's so many artists that I like, and then you have to factor in
Yep.
are the good wrestling songs. Uh, uh, God, that's hard. I get honestly, uh, if t time was stood still and everything, I was ranting about it last night. It'd have to be Kansas playing "Carry On Wayward Son" because that's just it's my one of my favorite songs ever. I have a deep connection to it for a lot of reasons, and I still stand by the fact that Tony Khan needs to pay for it so the elite can use it again because it is
Yes.
absolutely ridiculous. It fits them perfectly. I want to see Kenny Omega sing completely platonically into another man's eyes while he sings that song. Thank you very much. It's an amazing segment. It's an amazing segment. I don't know what
Yes.
you're talking about.
No, it's no, it really is. I enjoy. Speaking of, just quickly on a side note, everyone, last night, for those that don't know, MJF returned to AEW television. Oh, it was like he wasn't away. It was
Yeah.
great. So we're going to come back to the other questions later because we're going to have two more subjects that we're going to talk about. Then we'll have the final two questions. Then we'll go into the awards. So, Fightful, wrestling and writing. This is like a big thing. And look, it's great. There's certain journalists I listen to. Fightful's one, Body Slam. There's a couple that I really would will listen to, and if someone reports it from Fightful or something like that, I would kind of not saying take it fully as kosher because you
Mhm.
never know, things can change, but there'll be the ones that I look at. How did it all start with you? Was it did you do writing at school, college? How did it all come together for you?
For me, it was kind of it was it started in college. I graduated from college after doing journalism and other things in college. I got my degree, and after that, I like to be completely honest about this. I had mental health issues.
Mhm.
I didn't work. I was incredibly anxious person. I was incredibly depressed person. And it took me a long time to really kind of bounce back from that. But eventually, I think it was 2021 at this point. One of my friends, Jamie, turned to me and was like, "Look, I'm working at Body Slam here and there, to doing things here and there." And he was like, "Do you want me to talk to Cassidy, who runs Body Slam? People who know that, know that well at this point." But I talked to Cassidy, and we had hit it off well. I eventually started writing. Soon after I started being paid to do it, I stayed at Body Slam for a couple of years, and yeah, then it was a case of an opening came up in Fightful. I started to do exclusive reporting for Body Slam with NXT. My NXT reporting has started to take off a bit. They were looking for weekend writers. I said, okay, it's a morning shift in the US. It's middle of the day for me. Sounds like a good thing to go for. Went for that, and yeah, just ended up getting the job, and I got to work with someone that a lot of people that I respect, Jeremy Lambert, who is absolutely a machine when it comes to writing, podcasting, everything. That dude does so much work behind the scenes that people don't really know about, and it's just incredible how much he does. I got to work and be mentored by Sean Ross Sapp, who, in my opinion, is the best journalist. He won't like being called that, but best journalist in the wrestling space. And like that's the thing. For the last 2 years, I've worked under him. I've been mentored by him. Like it means so much to me to have that experience and to be able to work with someone who not only helps me out in all those ways, but gives me all the advice in the world. And same with everyone I work with. It's just at Fightful as well. Everyone is, and people will be like, "Oh, you're full of a percentage." Everyone's so professional with the way we work, with the way we do things, getting things done. Just, it's a really great workplace environment. It's a great place. I'm very good friends with a good few of my coworkers because of it. And yeah, it kind of just all kind of snowballed in 2023. And I didn't expect it, to be honest. I was perfectly happy in my role with Body Slam, but unfortunately, after I took the FIFA role, the workload got to be a little bit too much for me at the time, so I had to step away from Body Slam. But that's the thing as well. You mentioned them earlier. I really like hearing that you say Fightful in the same breath as Body Slam because I have so much respect for everyone at Body Slam, all the people who work in the background there, the people who came in when they merged with Corey Hayes and so on. Corey Hayes is a great guy as well. always good chatting to him and the other guys he's worked with over there. So yeah, to be honest with you, it just kind of snowballed, and I'm appreciative as well that like any time that I've had issues with my mental health,
Mm.
it's an ongoing battle. Anyone who has mental health issues knows it's a never-ending battle. And whenever I've had issues, they've been very understanding. When I've had health issues, they've been very understanding of that as well. And I just, yeah, just love it every day.
It's interesting because obviously the things like wrestling with myself, I never really I didn't go to college and do English or anything or journalism or anything like that. I could do creative writing,
Yeah,
and I kind of do a bit of that
yeah,
now within wrestling, right, within the British scene. But like, what does it? Is it have to be? Do you have to be creative in your writing? Do you have? Is it just a case of watch and because sometimes people find it difficult to watch and write, right? You're watching a match and you've got to
yeah.
remember a bit, and you're like, I must remember that, and then you could miss something. So how do you go about doing that when you do yours?
When I do mine, it's just kind of it's mainly transcriptions and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like it's a push that kind of Sean's been trying to make recently as well. If someone takes a transcription, like you've probably seen his posts where he's called people out for not crediting it.
Mhm.
Transcription work can be meticulous at times. All these quotes you see is because someone sat down, listened to the interview, and transcribed it. It could be a quote that's from a longer one that took 3 or 4 minutes of talking.
Mm.
If you're going through that, you want to go through that 3 or 4 times to make sure that's exactly right. Because in this industry, if you misquote someone, that's
Yeah.
everyone knows that's never going to end well. So it's a lot of work, and something that I really appreciate that I have a boss who's constantly trying to cut. Like this is something that like I people might have noticed over the last 2 years, especially when I first joined Fightful. When my reports went up, people were crediting Fightful Select. They credit Sean
Mm.
because no one knew there was another Scoops there at Fightful. Sean would always, always, always correct them, tag me, tag Fightful like publicly, and say it was me. So that's something that, and he's been doing that with transcription work as well. And I'm really happy that he does that because the work that people put in to get these transcriptions, it's long, it's tedious, it can be really, really frustrating when, especially when you can't make out what someone says and you've
Mm.
listened to it 4 times, you're still not sure, and you're like, what do I do now? But yeah, again, it I don't do a lot of live shows, obviously, because for us, live shows are at 1 a.m. and you don't want someone covering a show at 1 a.m. if you can help
No.
it. So um for the most part, I help with social media stuff with in that regard for shows and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier, it's a lot more relaxed. It's not as much as typing out all this stuff. But yeah, again, and there's some topics where I've been uncomfortable having to write them just due to my own personal history and
Mm.
stuff like that. Just stuff that I that makes me uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it's all part of the job. So again, I get paid to write about my favorite sport, a sport that I've loved since I was 6 years old. I'm never going to complain about that.
No, definitely not. And I will say, anytime that Fightful have covered our interviews that we've done, we've been credited. So
Yeah,
I can vouch for that. And
yeah,
thank you for everyone that at Fightful for doing that. Listen, we're a small time outlet over here, so
yeah,
anything like that, if we get something that drums someone's interest and you credit us, it does mean the world to us. And there's a couple of other podcasts like
yeah,
Magic of Wrestling and One Breezy who recently you guys have credited for the interviews that they've done, and I know it's going to make a big impact to them. So that is really important. And like if we're in this same thing, right? If we're taking what snippet of what was being reported from Fightful, you got to say per Fightful or per,
yeah,
whatever it is. Because I've seen it. I've seen Sean. I've seen even yourself call people out on it because it's natural, right? It's your work. It's what you're
yeah,
trying to, you got to be credit for your work. It's like, here's a great painting, guys. And he's like,
yeah,
oh, and someone else takes the credit for it. It doesn't
yeah.
work that way.
It,
But,
it can be definitely be frustrating at times, but at the end of the day, like I understand where some people do come from with certain things and certain arguments for it. But at the end of the day, if these same people went into work and weren't being given the proper credit for their hard work, they wouldn't be happy about it either.
no.
It's that's just it at the end of the day. Not a single person on this planet would be able to go, yeah, that's fine, completely fine. That guy, he did all the work that I did. Yeah, okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but it's very easy to say it about stuff on the internet and not when it's applied to you. And people try to like cop out with it and they're like, "Oh, it's not the same." And it's like, if you saw the hours that we put in to get even if for just a very very simple story that mightn't even seem like that groundbreaking, you'd understand the amount of conversations, the texts, the phone calls, all that stuff that's happening in the background. It's a lot of work.
It is. It's very easy for people just to do that and not realize, or not even realize, not even care about the work that goes in from you guys and anyone else that does it. But so it's an interesting one. But I do like, as I say, Fightful, Body Slam. There's a few people there that I will always, I personally always, if they report it, I'm more likely than to say, I don't know, I'm saying his name, but Meltzer or something like that, because I know that there's been issues. You just select, you go to a select few, right? Fightful and Body Slam are the
Yeah.
two that I personally choose. Right. So before we head on to our awards, there's a couple more questions that I have. Now, one I've told you, and one I haven't. I'm going to do the one I haven't first this time.
Okay.
Look, Brit Rest, we've already talked about it, and we could probably have another discussion and another long, lengthy discussion about Brit Rest on another day. And I'm very fortunate to be able to work in that promotion. Like I said before, we've got a championship there. I do some backstage stuff for Ignite, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity. But anyway, we kind of all know these stars coming up on the Brit scene. So in 2026, if you had to name 3 or 4 Brit wrestlers that we need to be looking out for, who would you choose on that list?
Uh, is this like kind of young up and comers or people who are already established on the scene who could be signed? Is that I just need context here because
More of
it's
an
very
opportunity to be signed. If people
yeah.
maybe not
Okay.
necessarily maybe ones that are like they could be young, but also it wouldn't surprise you if they were signed by somebody.
Okay. I'm going to do something a bit interesting here. I'm going to go with 4 different acts from 4 different countries
Cool.
or so. So from the UK and Ireland, I'm gonna cheat a little here and do an act if that's okay. I'm gonna say Michael, Oku, and Amira. And it's funny. A year ago, I would have said that it was more Michael and Amira as a valet, but Amira in Pro Wrestling Eve and in her own wrestling performances and just even just her promos online or in vlog appearances with Speedballer, and she's so entertaining. I'm sorry, but I don't understand how these 2 people haven't been signed yet by someone. It feels like
Well,
it's only a matter of time for them.
yeah,
I'd say that,
yeah.
but it's so surprising to me. So I'd say that's one.
I
One,
would say on Amira, she can work a crowd as well, can't she,
yeah,
Amira?
yeah, and it's and she's getting better and better in the ring. You see it like night and day between like when she first really started. Like when I interviewed her at the start of last year, I think it was. She was saying how she wanted to wrestle more, and she's done that in spades. She wanted to be more than just Michael's ballet, and
Yes.
she's done that. I think she's achieved that in a lot of ways. But to move on from that, I would say I'm going to go with someone from Portugal next. I'm going to say Golden Boy Santos.
Yep.
He is a phenomenal big man. He is a very, very, very good big man. He had 2 tryouts this year. I
Yeah.
think that like for Irish wrestling fans who've seen him over here, he's been adopted by Irish crowds. Whenever he showed up in Rev Pro, he was well
Yep.
liked. Everyone's kind of like everyone sees his lariat and they're like, "Oh, hold on now, this guy looks like." And it was crazy when I was doing all these reports about the tryouts, and I said that Santos hadn't been signed. I'd said a couple of them aside. I said Rio, Doris, Luke, uh, and him, and then there was a couple other ones I think I mentioned didn't get picked up in the interim, but it was Santos who got the most like people going, "What? Are you serious?" Like because everyone was like, "He has the look, he's good in the ring,
Yeah.
he can talk." Everyone was shocked, but I think next year if he's not picked up by WWE, I think either he's going to go to Japan or he's going to be picked up by AEW or something because he's just very, very talented. Um, Next, I'm going to go to France. There's been a lot going on in the French
Yeah.
scene right now, as we all know. There's a lot of chaos, but someone that
Mm.
I think is going to come out of all of this and kind of help keep French wrestling rising is Kuro. Kuro,
Yes.
I think, is phenomenal. He's a fantastic babyface. Everyone in French wrestling has nothing but good things to say about him that I've heard anyway, in conversations like. And when he's been over and when he's been wrestling as part of Hype Dogs, he's been great as well. Yeah, and he's had a couple of extra work stuff with WWE as well,
Mhm.
which you've seen him there in the background. And in I think he was involved in AEW stuff this week as well.
Yeah.
But I'd have to fact check that because I only saw a couple of posts about that. Um, but yeah, the final one for four. I would have to say, I'm going to cheat and say a second person from Ireland. Technically, Amir is from Belfast, so I'm kind of cheating a little here. Um, but Anita Vaughan,
Oh,
I
yes.
think is fantastic. There's a lot of talent that I think is on the cusp of being signed, but I think Anita is someone who really really gets it. And the reason why I say that is not just because of the tryout. She was at Lodestone as well
Mm.
with Sapphire
Yeah.
and obviously with Bailey and such.
Mhm.
Um, I really do think for Anita, it's a matter of time as well. And same for Sapphire as well, by extension. But Anita really, you see her in Eve, she's a heel. You
Mm.
see her when she's teaming with Sapphire elsewhere. You've seen it in Rev Pro when she was on the other side of Sapphire. That's the thing
Mhm.
that I really like about the independent scene, especially like you see it in America as well, where these talents will go to different big promotions all over the country and they'll be playing completely different characters almost
Yeah.
or an extension of the character as a heel, as faces, different stuff like that. But yeah, for me, those would be the four acts to keep an eye on.
I agree. I'm going to select four myself. I'm going to go with Will Cruz for one. I mean that what
Yeah,
that guy. So I've had the pleasure. We booked so with Ignite we've run two sort of free
yeah,
sponsored shows together called Buckle Up, where we would base it as the podcast. We would basically help with the finance and the cost of the shows. Um, we booked Will in the first time, and when I got told, and this is I'd never seen Will before, and the promoter was like, "Yeah, he's this big, 300." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I just wasn't thinking. I wasn't feeling it." And I will say that he come in, he fought our champion at the time, and it was like we done a Hogan Andre thing. That was kind of what we had with our champion at the time. Was like his name was Smashing Mike. I don't know if you've heard of him in the UK, but he
mhm,
was our first champ. So I wanted to do. So we done like a Hogan Andre thing, and then he got in the ring and my whole because you could kind of sometimes looks can be deceiving, right? You could look at someone and you think, yeah, he's just a big guy. And I had this with Brian Cage and I spoke to him and I was like, the whole thing of the big guy when like Brian Cage does 450s and then when Will Cruz was doing Spanish flyers and like this guy is he's unreal. So he blew me away. And like
yeah,
I know he's had some tries. I think he done something with
yeah,
NWA as well. So he's one for sure that I think if he isn't going to be, he should be.
yeah,
Um, well, a tag team slash trio, depending on what CPF, close
yeah,
personal. Lando and Daddy Black and Maverick Mayhew. They're just people that are incredible. They get the crowd going. I mean, in my particular show, again for Ignite, I can't speak for anyone else. They have Backstreet's Back as their theme, so the
yeah,
crowd go up. They just have everything, and they've got like the whole football
yeah,
thing, which is relevant. Like I know Will Ospreay was involved in a little bit of that, but it was just like you know everything
yeah,
about them is great, and they can back it up when they're
yeah,
doing. And they wrestle in boiler suits for Christ's sake
yeah.
sometimes.
Incredibly talented dudes. Like
Yeah.
it's almost unfair to really limit it to four people because, like
Mm,
you've just mentioned, Will Cruz and
mm,
CPF, and it's just like there's so many people on the
yeah.
scene right now that are just standouts right now, and people like to say like you notice Americans kind of look down on kind of British wrestling, European
Yeah.
wrestling in general. I in my reports I've seen now in the replies like, and of course there is a stigma still due to speaking out and so on that I
Hmm.
understand,
Yeah.
but there is a lot of good young wrestlers. Like people are blown away still by Leon Slayer. There's a lot of wrestlers like him that I think once people do see them on these big
Yeah.
stages, they're gonna be like, oh, these guys did this good all along, kind of
Yeah.
reaction. But yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And you did mention Anita Vaughan and Sapphire, so I'm going to take them off my list because you mentioned them. I think it's only fair. I'm going to say another woman though. Emerson Jane is another one.
yeah,
She is absolutely crazy. Well, I mean, listen, the list, we could list 50
Yeah,
people quite easily. Honorable mention James Ellis for
yeah,
just because he's like a technician, naturally gifted.
yeah,
He reminds me of like he could be the Welsh Mr. Perfect if he, just
yeah,
the way the manner is. But my last one, I mean, Emerson Jane, like I said, she's done all types of matches. She's done death matches at Extreme TNT. She does it all, right? So it's really she can do anything, Emerson Jane. You could say Luke Jacobs, Reese. I think they're nailed on
yeah,
somewhere. They'll fit easily.
yeah,
But the last one, and I kind of wish we filmed this last week because everyone's going to say it's because he won the Ref Pro Championship. No, it's nothing to do with that. Jay Joshua is the
yeah.
last guy. Um, Unbelievably talented, Jay. I mean, they're all are. There's so many we could say, but yeah, Jay Joshua for me. Just a tremendous guy. Actually, one of the say one of the nicest. Sounds like the rest of them are savages, but no, he literally is one of the nicest guys. He's coming on the show soon as well, which I'm looking forward to. But just again, sometimes looks can be deceiving with him. You'd look at him and go, maybe, but he gets in the ring and you're like, geez, like, come on. So there's my thought. And that will change tomorrow. I'll wake up in the morning and think of somebody else.
Yeah.
But you could do. We said we could list 50 easily of wrestlers, and we're not, we're not cutting short anybody else. They're just the four that come to our head at this particular time. As we say, things change. Tomorrow morning we could be saying other names on the scene. So Nico Angelo, there you go. Another Charles Crowley. What a character he is, right?
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure you could get away with
Yeah.
spectacular twat, but you know he's just a character. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
a. Oh, do you know where I think would fit Charles Crowley? And just because of he could actually get away with that. NWA would be a fit for Charles Crowley, just because they have all sorts of weird and wonderful people over in the NWA, all sorts of characters.
Such a multi-talented person as well. His acting career and the background as
Yeah,
well. That's like I think a lot of people are really unaware that Charles is also like a really talented actor, and he's starting to get the roles. He has that movie coming out that he
yeah,
like his own baby, which I'm really looking forward to. A
yeah,
couple of big wrestlers in that. Jordan Grace is in
yeah.
it. Simon Miller's going to be in it. There's probably a lot more that I just can't bring to mind right now, but yeah, like you've mentioned a couple of names there, like you said, and I really do think that this list could be 50 wrestlers long if you just take in like everywhere outside the US and Japan and stuff.
Yeah.
Take out the wrestling hotspots, you go Australia, Europe in general, and you're just looking at and you're just like, God damn, there's a lot of young talent coming through.
Yeah, there really is scary when you think of it as well, that how much the talent, how much young talent is coming through. But my last question before we get on with the awards is, and I mentioned this to you before, Corey's table for free. Now we used to see this in the WWE; they'd put a
Yeah.
table for free, but it'd be three people. In your case, it's going to be you plus three other past, present, live, dead wrestlers that you would like at your dinner table. Who would it be and why?
The first two were relatively easy for me to do because, well, actually, to be honest, I think it'd be an easy three. Yeah, probably Jeff Hardy would be one, couldn't pass that up. And it's really just my three favorite wrestlers, and as well with their influence as well that I'd really be curious and like just to pick the brains. It'd be Jeff, it'd be Finn Balor, naturally, and then finally it'd be Mox. Just those three for me. It just they're the three kind of reasons that I'm still such a big wrestling fan today. There's different stages of my fandom that kind of were my favorite wrestlers, so they're easily my three favorite of all time. Obviously, they've all been through so much in their
Yes.
careers, dealt with so much like personal stuff and stuff like that. So it's just three very strong people that I'd really like to pick their brains and talk to them about wrestling and anything else, to be honest, with the other stuff that they do outside of Jeff, obviously with his music, Finn, I guess with his body paint and stuff like that. That
Yeah.
that stuff was always so cool to me, and just Mox being Mox. I love Terminator as much as Mox does, and if you've read his autobiography, that man loves Terminator.
He does. He does indeed. Funny, I would always say, I wonder if Finn would what costume he would wear, because obviously from those you've seen in WWE, he's not even scratched the surface of
Yeah,
the Finn that we've seen on the Fergal Devitt, as we probably know him as, or Prince Devitt, as we
yeah,
know him as in the independence scene. He coming. I think he was doing a Silence of the Lambs one once. I've seen him, and he's done all sorts of Joker. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
across his time. He's only scratched the surface in the WWE. Mine wouldn't change too much. I would always have Heyman.
Yeah,
I just love it. I've had Bischoff on the show many times, so I will take him out just because I've not had
yeah.
the conversation I'd like. We've had a proper wrestling conversation here, but so I would say, yeah, Paul Heyman, Undertaker, because there's one guy that is on my list of interviews that I would never get, but I would love to sit
Yeah.
there and have a chat with him. And and you know, I'd never I always struggle with my third just because it's all. But I'm going to go with the man I really one of the guys that, like I mentioned earlier on, he was the first one to beat John Cena for the championship, so he's one of my favorites ever since, and it is Copeland Edge, as we obviously love and know him. So there's my three, and equally as good as yours. But
Yeah.
look, 2026 is on the horizon. But before we get to that, it's end of year time for us here, and as you mentioned, there's been a lot going on in 2025. So much great stuff, and we can cut all the tribalism crap out and all that rubbish that goes on. This is just purely opinion based between me and you here. Right, male superstar of 2025 for Corey is.
I'd have to go with Hangman. It'd be hard for me to go with anyone else for just a simple fact he had probably the best storyline of the year. He had some incredible matches. That Double or Nothing match with
Yeah.
Osprey is phenomenal stuff. Obviously, All In, phenomenal stuff. Moxley and him just put on a clinic in terms of just finishing a story with a big, massive emotional bookend. Uh, it's really hard because like just the whole year, it's felt like Hangman has kind of just been like as usual, he's the main character of AEW. It's been said for years at this point. I don't think he'll have a strong year next year. I think it's going to. I think he's going to have to lose that position next year, and it's really hard for me to think of anyone that even comes close to Hangman, just in terms of just consistently great work at the top end of a card. Um, but yeah, it'd have to be Hangman for me.
For me, yeah, I was going to say Hangman, but I'm not going to agree. So I'm always going to make someone different. So Hangman was on my, but second on my list, someone else from AEW, funnily enough. And I just think that not even just now, but the sky is the limit for this kid. Carl Fletcher, for me, someone
Yeah,
that has
it's
been
fair.
like, he was obviously a tag team Aussie Open. Mark Davis gets injured. He has to run it alone. He does the thing with Don Callis. He's now Don Callis' family. But I think, like to quote a Will Ospreay theme in word in Will Ospreay's theme, elevated,
Yeah,
right? He's kind of elevated himself through. I mean, look, he's changed his whole look. He's like me, in terms of the hair, but he's got like, the look himself. Everything about him's changed. But he's one of. I saw him at the Forbidden Door press conference. He's one of the softly spoken guys you'll ever
mm,
meet in your life. But
mm,
in terms of everything that he's done this year, the championships he's won, and where he's he should be going to. You're talking about someone that could potentially take that championship off Hangman. I don't think it will be straight away, but Cole Fletcher for me slots in to that spot. So I could have had Hangman. I'm going to my second choice, and that was Cole Fletcher for that reason. Right, we've done the male, female of the year.
I'm gonna get rinsed for saying this, but it's really hard to argue against Mercedes.
No, don't say
If
it.
but there is one person who I think is close, and that's Io. I think Io's
Mhm,
had a massive year. I think she's really been established as. If I had to pick, like, if I want to, I think I might. I think Mercedes is definitely is number one, but
mhm,
Io is very, very close. Just for just what she's done over the year, I think she's established herself now as kind of they're not going to be able to remove her from the main event scene for a long
mhm.
time, even though she's in the tag team division for now. Like she's being paired with arguably the biggest female star in the world, regardless of promotion, with Rhea Ripley. So I'd say Mercedes, but Io is very close.
I'm going to go off the road because again, I had through gritted teeth Mercedes Monet
Yeah,
was written in. You mentioned EO, so I'm going to go with my third pick on this. And someone that's really only started coming into. You mentioned the tag team. She's been in a tag team for a while. She's only started coming into her own as a single, but she's going to take the Knockouts division by storm, and that's Danny Luna. I mean, we've
yeah,
mentioned British talent, right? What a dog collar match last week, by the way, for those of you that haven't
yeah,
seen. So I think for me, as I said, she was third on my list, but like I said, I'm always going to go different. She's just, I mean, obviously we've known her over here, subculture as well. It's not her first
yeah.
rodeo, but I think now next year, going into 2026, she will win the knockout championship at some point. in 2020. We talk about someone that's
Yeah,
quote unquote maybe signing, not saying leave, or hopefully not leaving TNA, but someone that could easily show up somewhere else and
yeah.
do good things. Women's Continental Classic next year, Tony Khan, if I'm just throwing it out there.
I,
Uh, anyway,
it
tag team of the year. Sticky
this
one, this one.
see this one is a really hard one because it's felt like most tag titles in most companies have just bounced around.
Mm,
Um, if you'd asked me early on in the year, I would have said Fraxium with ease,
yeah.
but they kind of they really slowed down their momentum. That's something that's really bothered me. But I don't want to just say Young Bucks because it feels like a cop out of an answer. Uh, I'd have to say Young Bucks. It's they've just done consistently good work. The entire year they've kind of been this like heel force, and then after the stuff that they did after All In was just fantastic. They've been the butt
Mm.
of the joke for they were the butt of the jokes for so long, and now they've turned babyface to finish the year off. And I think it was about time that happened. So yeah, I can't I don't want to say it because it feels like such a cop out just to pick the Young Bucks but I really don't think anyone's come close, including the likes of Fraxium. Uh, who else is there in WWE? That's the thing in WWE, there hasn't really been a consistent
Yeah.
tag team throughout the year,
Yeah.
has there? And no, I'd have to say the Young Bucks, and I'm not saying like oh it's a cop out and all that because I don't like them. I like the Young Bucks. It feels like it's always them the last few years. The last few years, it's just like every
Yeah.
time you think tag team of the year, like first tag team that pops into your mind, you're just like Bucks straight away. And then after you think about it even more, and then you're like, there really is no one else. But
No.
for me, I'd have to go with the Bucks. Yeah, I really can't. I really can't think of an argument for anyone else more than the Bucks.
No, I'm going to go with my number two because again, we agreed. And we mentioned them before. Hardys, Renaissance
Yeah,
year for the Hardys. Really,
strong year.
yeah, strong year for the Hardys. Again, it's just great to see mainly Jeff back to that without the demons and that. They're not going to be the Hardys of 20 years ago. We know that, but they're still doing it consistently.
Yeah,
Tell you who might be one to watch out for: Sinner and Saint next year, or
yeah.
the Great Hands, for argument's sake. Two great teams there that haven't quite got there yet, but are certainly ones that potentially in 2026 would be looking out for. Right, underdog. Well, not say underdog, but maybe what's the word? Well, it's not underdog of the year because that's the wrong word, but underrated of the year, or maybe someone that deserves more credit than they got.
Someone who deserves more credit than they've got. I would have to say, I'd have to say Lyra, mainly
Mm,
because it felt like a lot of people kind of, I think the hype around Lyra kind of simmered down a little. At the start of the year, it was very, very odd because a lot of people were kind of arguing that she was like, oh, industry plant and all this. And then
mm,
people were like, wait, no, she's really talented. The crowd likes her, and she's in this really, really great feud with Becky. They have cooled her off a little since then. Obviously, the Bailey stuff has been fun. I've enjoyed the Bailey stuff, but
mm.
I'd have to say Lyra and I'm going to say someone else as well because I don't want to just pick an Irish person because it comes across so biased. Um, uh, Damn, I'd honestly say underrated. Someone that's been underrated and has been consistent all year is Claudio Castagnoli.
Oh, of course, absolutely, yeah.
I think the Death Riders, everyone can agree, it wasn't the best at times. There was a lot of the stuff that weighed it down, but that Claudio was kind of as the second in command, even with Marina being there as well.
Mm.
It's a very role that was very befitting of him, and he did very well with it, and he's still continuing to do really well with it. So yeah, I'll say Claudio and Lyra.
Oh, yeah, Lara. I'm going to say Daniel Garcia. I don't quite,
Hmm.
and that you could argue over the last couple of years. Claudio is a great one. But Daniel Garcia is one for me that
Yeah,
you know, he's there. It's just waiting for that moment. That I don't know. I don't think the Death Riders is probably the right group, but I want to see him on his own. I want him
yeah,
to give it because the part of the characters so is that you kind of understanding them or them, feeding that to them. And I don't think we're quite there yet with him, but we should
yeah.
be, and I think we will be. And lastly, he probably isn't underrated, but. I think he's been the best heel over the last 2 years, and that's Dominic Mysterio. Is just it, he. I said this. I think it's what Saturday night's main event review. I said 2026 Money in the Bank winner Dom Mysterio. That's where I went.
Yeah, I look. I'm the first to admit this. I was very, very wrong about Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah, me too.
I was so wrong. I thought he was the definition of a nepo baby pro wrestler, and then he turned heel, and then you've seen the just the confidence he
Yeah,
built up. And Damian Priest said it in an interview a couple of days ago. He's turned into a megastar, and
yeah,
that's incredible for a kid his age at this point. I think he's around my age, maybe
yeah.
younger, which makes me feel really like old at this point. That there's this kid who's absolutely killing it. But yeah, just I completely get that about Dominic. A lot of people are like, "Oh, there's such and such, there's this and that about him," and like the people gripe about his in-ring skills not catching up, but he's still good in the ring. He's perfectly good enough for where he is at this stage in his career. The matches with Cena were fun. They were overbooked nonsense, but
Yes.
they were fun. But yeah, every time he comes out, I feel like it, and it's so interesting for me because he could have easily leaned into Ray and just kind of went
Yeah.
that way. They could have done this amazing moment where Ray finally gave him the mask. It's a
Mhm.
WrestleMania moment. It's so cute. It's so endearing. They went the complete opposite direction. He doesn't want to be Ray's kid. He wants to be Eddie's kid. And that's the best part about this character because he went against the Nepo baby thing. And instead of doing it that way, he went, "Oh, I am a Nepo baby, but Eddie's Nepo baby." And it's so nonsensical. It's so silly. It would never work in any other form of entertainment except pro wrestling. And I adore it.
It's great. And as I say, Money in the Bank 2026 for me. Dirty Dom, because you could believe in winning the title somehow as well. It could potentially happen. There's no,
Yeah. This
maybe
year
not, but
solidified that.
yeah,
This year,
exactly that.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, Corey, we're going to start wrapping up as we do. Well, I say, what have you got coming up on Fightful? But that's what's going on with Fightful. Where can everyone find it? And yeah, what is going on?
You guys can find articles every single day from the staff, from everyone on Fightful.com. We've had some issues with migrating to WordPress. We changed the entire kind of site layout and everything. And it's kind of been a bit of a pain in the arse for everyone kind of to deal with. There's some growing pains, but it seems to be balanced out now, which is good. You can find us all on Fightful Select. So much podcasts, so many scoops from like myself for European wrestling. You've got WrestleVotes, who's obviously mainly WWE, but he had the MJF scoop, which we saw come to pass this week. You've got Sean, who, like I said, is, in my opinion, the best in the game at this. You're getting stories, 2 to 3 stories nearly, or posts in some form on Select every day. You get access to our Discord, which is always really fun place during live shows. Got a really strong mod team over there that I've kind of had I've been helping out with a lot over there, so I really like to see that. So if you're in, say if you're watching this interview and you decide to join Five Select, you go on Discord. Just tag me on the Discord, and just let me know because I'd love to know that you're coming just from this interview. Um, and yeah, there's not really much else. You can find me at Corey Brennan FF on Twitter. I don't really use other social media platforms, but yeah, that's where you can find me. You can find everything to do with Fightful. Follow us on our YouTube channel as well. Fightful Scraps is where I do interviews when I do them. Sorry, I'm plugging so much stuff
No,
right
that's
now,
fine.
boys.
Get it all in. Get it all in. And you can't announce too much what's going on because you don't know until you get the
Yeah,
scoop, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
as simple as that. But make sure you check Five out. Listen, if you want reliable sources, there you go. There you guys to go for. Look, as the year draws to a close, and I'm gonna you had a lot to plug, Corey. You're gonna probably fall asleep now. Look, we've got to plug a few ourselves. Need to big thanks to AEW this year. We've obviously had some great interviews. Brian Cage, Preston Vance, Bishop Corn. We've also had the press passes for Forbidden Door. Myself and David went there. We got to ask Tony Khan a few questions at the end of the show. That was great. Obviously, this past week at time of recording of Dynamite, we got it again. Hopefully, we'll get it next year as well. So big thanks to everyone at AEW. Huge thanks to Cy Rothstein and everyone associated with TNA UK for their constant roster interviews. I always find it funny with them because he says, I get a message saying, "Can you interview so and so at so time?" I was like, "Why are you even asking?" Just tell me who and tell me
Yeah.
when, and I'll be there. But again, without TNA, without AEW, like some of this stuff and the growth of the channel doesn't happen without you two. Ignite Wrestling, of course, our main sponsor over here in the UK. Well, was partnership really over here in the UK. We've had some incredible moments this year. We've had the third buckle up. We've got the Turnbuckle Championship match February the 15th. Aluna Chris Aries, I'll say the final match between them. There's been two, one triple threat match, and now this. So get yourself down 96 Eventbrite. Get your tickets, Chapter 5. Corey, if you're around, I'll get you a ticket. You can come and watch some of the good British names in wrestling. Will Scar and David Bartholomew, two artists out there who, if you're a wrestler and you want a theme, go and search them on Spotify. If We Wrote the Theme, they do cover songs of wrestling themes, pay-per-view themes, and they do the theme song to the British wrestling, UK independent wrestler Tyson Keaton. Go and check them out as well. And finally, NWA. Wow, what a great year we've had through them. And Exodus with EC3 covering his shows as well. It's been an incredible year. So thank you to everybody. But more importantly, thank you to you, Corey, for coming up on tonight. We're getting our interview done, and it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, man. I'm sorry that it took so long. Unfortunately, we did plan this out a while ago, but I had circumstances that just pushed it back. But I'm glad that we had this chat. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully, I don't get a bit of hate in the comments. But if I do, that's fine because I'm used to it.
There's no hate for sure. But everyone, from Corey Brennan, I've been your host, Adam Cousins. You have been watching the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until 2026, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and good night.